Hello, and welcome to the second edition of the Summer Summit. For the ones who might not know who I am, either online or in the room, I am Cecilia. I'm the DG of Digital Europe. And in the middle of strikes, I think we have train strikes, cab strikes, airport strikes. I'm really glad that at least some of you made it today in person. These hybrid things are not necessarily easy, and then with all the things on top, it seems that we have been a bit challenged, but most of you made it here. Thank you so much. So I am happy to say that we have quite a few hundreds, if not more than that. Maybe Chris can give me a hint on how many we are at the top of the event, but we have several hundred people tuning in. And last year, the theme of this was the data and the digital decade. And the Commission has just launched their grand digital strategy. They had just given 20% of their recovery funds to digital, and the countries were planning their digital investment during the COVID. We also looked at data, not only data within Europe, but also the data transfers. You might know that around 86% of the growth of European companies comes from outside the EU. And we have had great supply chain disruptions, which has really highlighted how interlinked business is across different countries and different continents. We saw that the data transfers outside Europe is worth around 2 trillion of the EU data economy by 2030. And we also saw that in 2019, the data economy in EU was worth 400 billion euros. So it is said that data is the new oil or the new gold, and it's rather true, right? Many of the companies that were producing goods before, their future value is no longer created by the goods, but really by the services. And how do you get the services? It's based on data. And this is not only the case for European companies, it's the case for all the global companies, SMEs, big and small companies, and for all sectors. If we look at manufacturing, it's actually the second biggest user of data in Europe. If we look at health, it is highly dependent on data and the ability to share data. Europe has kind of lagged behind in this because we have many different countries with many different rules. We have different sensitivities. We have different types of consent. How do we actually get this European data space up and running? I remember from one of my first experience with health and data, I was speaking to one of our member companies that was European. They told me, well, all our innovations are run on the US health data space that has been created around 15 years ago by private sector. And it's such a shame because we have so much data in Europe. So how do we actually make sure that we enable that data and that we actually use that data across border and share it for the benefit of our citizens and for innovation? On data, we can say that 12 months later, we have now seen many of these discussions on data being the new oil and being the new gold actually turning into legislative proposals. We have had the Data Act, we have had the Data Governance Act, the European Health Data Space, and of course we'll have the Commissioner later, Commissioner Kyriakides, who is the Commissioner for Health and Food Safety. And she's also one of the major drivers of the European health data space. We, of course, share her ambition. Now, the devil is in the detail. How do we actually make it happen? And where would we like to be in 12 months when we stand here? What are the KPIs that we are following up on, saying, okay, this was actually a success? We are, we are very close to having a European data space. And it's said as a joke that everything in health takes around 10 years, but can we actually afford to wait that long? What if we have another pandemic tomorrow? Will we be asking ourselves why we didn't do this quicker? Why we didn't speed up? So let's be sure that we actually discuss real progress and also how industry basically can drive this. It is not only up to, of course, the Commission and the member states, but also to us to be very concrete in what we can do about it. Another thing is looking at data in the Data Governance Act, in the Data Act. And we just published a study a few days ago. And as you might know, one of the things that are in this Data Governance Act is actually that there will be new rules on data transfers. So I think we have some learnings to do. If we look at the GDPR, first of all, it actually has provisions on data transfer. So why would we want to invent something new? We have just gone through a very difficult process with the US on the Privacy Shield, hopefully soon to be solved. Why would we create even more complexity? We see the complexity of GDPR being channeled into difficulties for health companies and for member states to share health data. We see difficulties from the GDPR of SMEs growing across border because there is different interpretations. It's not that GDPR is not good, it's absolutely a good thing, but how do we actually make sure that we learn from the experiences and we don't take the hundreds of thousands of SMEs by surprise, again, by adding extra complexity with new rules. So from our side, we would say, let's remove those data transfer and access clauses on non-personal data from these from the Data Governance Act and other initiatives. Let's make sure that we implement what we have and that we, teach our companies and our citizens how to use that before we add additional complexity. So it brings me to the second topic of this event. In 2023. It is the 30th anniversary of the single market. And I think some of you might have heard me say this before. I don't know if you have an idea of how many percentage of SMEs actually trade across one European border. So how many in the room would say it's between 10 and 20? How many would say that it's between 1 and 10%? So let's see the 1 and 10%. Unfortunately, you are right. Only a few. So it's 8% of our SMEs trade across one European border. So can we actually call that a digital single market or even a single market? Or is it only for big companies that actually have hundreds of lawyers interpreting the rules and the different rules? I think we have just also published a paper with 15 different examples of complexity of implementing and different rule sets. Thank you to Vincenzo from my team, who has been initiating this great paper. And it's actually telling stories that are supposed to be really simple. I mean, how do you produce a product or a service across a border? And it shows the immense complexity we still have. So let's try to really also address that and stay firm with this commission, but also for the new commission, that we need to bring down complexity, and not least, of course, also in the member states. Without the member states and without the council, this will never happen. So how do we do this, amongst others, in data and in health? So if we look at the Data Act, this is, of course, another area. I think we have reached a point where we are discussing high risk. What's high risk? And that's really, really good. We don't need another blanket GDPR on a regulation on on AI. Where are the high risk areas where we are not covered by existing legislation? And are there any? If there are any, okay, let's discuss. But let's look at AI. I mean, we have privacy, we have data processing rules and GDPR. We have, it's illegal to be biased and to discriminate in Europe. We have liability rules. There might be issues on where we actually regulate, so we should look at it, but let's make sure that we do it with an open mind of interpretation of existing legislation and with a high-risk approach in mind. So, no speech without mentioning the unmentionable, the war in Ukraine. I mean, who could have guessed, right? Many of our companies, they have treated Ukraine for long as a part of the family, a part of the like-minded family, a part of Europe. And all of a sudden we find 44 million people endangered by the Russians and their illegal invasion of their country. Who would have thought? But how could we not have guessed? We have seen Ukraine being attacked with cybersecurity attack for many, many years. And 4 years ago, in 2014, we also saw the invasion of Ukraine. So how could we not guess? It seems that if there is no direct crisis, we forget it too easy. So, if we had an attack like that, a big-scale cyber attack in Europe, who's the boss? Who calls the shot? How do we collaborate? If anybody can tell me that answer, I would love it. I can't. There is a boss in each country, which is okay. But how's the chain of command? How do we work with private sector? Let's face it. You know, the Ukraine cyber attacks, neither were they discovered nor were they addressed by public sector. They were all discovered and addressed by private sector. And this is a general trend. Technology are invented by companies, not by nation states, not by military anymore. So how can we make sure that we are safe and we really collaborate well to defend our citizens and our companies towards cyber attack? We need to make sure that we build that resilience into the way that we think, that we can also protect hospitals. We have had many countries where hospitals have faced big attacks. Portugal, Romania, and other places have seen their hospitals being down for days due to cyber attacks. Our Ukrainian friends have called this the first world cyber war. Are we ready to address those dangers? Are we aligned? Who are we aligned with? EU, NATO, US? So, last but not least, we will have the Finnish Minister of Digitalization, Timo Haraka. He is, of course, just coming from joining also NATO. So, welcome on board and in the club there. It's taken long, but we all know that they are very well equipped both on cyber and on defense, and we can learn a lot from them. As you see, we have an absolutely wonderful program in front of us, and I want to thank our sponsors, Arvid, our Czech Digital Association, who has also hosted us for the presidency a few weeks ago with an absolutely excellent program, and we also have the Deputy Prime Minister for Digitalization, Bartosz, here speaking today. Accenture, Johnson & Johnson, Microsoft, and United Health Group. Thank you so much for your support in making this happen. And with that, I will leave the word to our President, Hilary Mein. She is Vice President for Strategy and Technology at Nokia, and she is the President of Digital Europe. The word is yours, Hilary.
Thanks so much, Cecilia. Welcome all of you to Digital Europe's second Summer Summit. And thank you, Cecilia, for our very substantive opening. I'm delighted that we were able to host many of you in person today, and really sorry that I can't be there myself. But I'm equally thrilled that we've had such great participation online from all over Europe and beyond. And I'm looking forward to being in Brussels next week as well for our next meetings. This year's Summer Summit is a good moment to take stock of yet another life-changing year. The war in Ukraine has been a terrible tragedy and a shock for everyone. Just when we could see light at the end of the tunnel to talk about recovery and future prosperity, we experienced this new wake-up call. As industry, we had to reassess our priorities, first and foremost by moving quickly to help those in dire need, and secondly, to support our companies who have yet again been hit by economic hardship, just as we thought we were pulling out of COVID. And on top of that, COVID continues to play havoc in addition to the war. It's not over. And supply resilience for energy and food, but also, again, digital components are still and now a daily topic. The silver lining in this, if there is one, is that we've witnessed the full force of unity and solidarity of Europe, the European project. The public and private sectors have been standing shoulder to shoulder to help Ukraine, to donate money, time, and resources to the Ukrainian government, businesses, as well as refugees displaced by war. Members of this association, and I thank you, have already donated millions of euros of ICT equipment, laptops, printers, cybersecurity, software modems, etc., all vital to keep Ukraine afloat and effective. I want to particularly highlight and appreciate the contributions of our national digital associations, like ITAS in Slovakia, who've offered full scholarships to 20 Ukrainian students, or PIIT in Poland, who launched Polish IT for Ukraine, sending regular trucks full of essential items for refugees, as well as an IT platform to help them find the support they need. How we respond in crisis defines who we really are. That's why I'm certain that Europe will become even stronger, more resilient as we navigate this next period. But I do think that it's extremely germane, the topics that Cecilia has raised today, and I hope that we have good discussions about that at the summit. The EU has truly leapt forward with new digital policy proposals covering an impressive range of issues, from health to supply chains to data and emerging technologies. Just this year, we've seen the Commission putting forward its proposals for the European health data space, as well as acts for chips, for artificial intelligence, and data governance. It's encouraging to see policy working hard to keep up with technology's pace. But we mustn't forget that digital technologies are profoundly interconnected. AI, data, connectivity, semiconductors, they all rely on each other. To innovate, companies must now navigate increasingly complex rules, and many of them, especially the smaller companies, don't have the resources to do so. So it's vital that we make all these pieces fit together. Harmonized and supportive rules can help technology companies thrive and grow in Europe, and importantly, support the digitalization of our society. Contradicting unnecessary rules hamper not only our economy, but our very security. More than ever, it's critical that Digital Europe and our membership do everything in our power to support Europe in defining and executing policy that supports Europe's digital ambitions without threatening our economic and security needs. Next year, as Cecilia mentioned, we'll celebrate 30 years since the establishment of the EU single market. Bad news is that we still have work to do in order to deliver it, but the good news is that now is the time to shape a true digital union where the best digital talents and technology companies can thrive. I'm looking forward to the discussions today, which I will follow online. Thank you all for engaging and being a part of our summer summit, and please give us feedback after. And back to you, Cecilia. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hillary. And yes, now is the time. And it's been for a while, so we'll definitely continue to push for a more digital union in Europe. So with this, I would like to introduce the next speakers and the next panel. So if I can please ask the panelists to come on stage, please, Susanna. If I can ask Nicola, Jan, and Michael to come on stage. And then, of course, to welcome our distinguished speaker, the Commissioner Kyriakides, who is the Commissioner for Health and Food Safety. As I said before, of course, we are big supporters of the initiatives that you have started, and I want to thank you so much for your leadership on this. As we have discussed, the Council met also earlier today. How do we make sure that we have common KPIs, that we have also that we are leaning in to make sure that we are clear in where to focus? Many of the innovations are delivered by the companies that we have in our membership. and it's also upon us to support, to let the Commission and let the countries know what exactly can we do and what is it that we need. Thank you so much for being here today.
Francesco.
And let me, yes, and with that, please let me welcome on stage Francesco. And Francesco, you have been the chair of our council now for a bit over a year. Yes, and I'm really, really happy that you have taken this role. So Francesco Bonarotti is the Chief Information Officer of Janssen Pharmaceuticals and Johnson Johnson, and has taken on the lead of this great council, which is composed by a mix of digital companies and health companies, really to bring those two worlds together and become very concrete in how we create a better health situation based on digital solutions. Please, the word is yours.
So, experts predicted in the next 10 years, we will see more progress in healthcare development that we have seen in the past 100 years. And this is thanks to the convergence of science and technology. And exactly the DEC, so the council that I have the honor to chair, is the combination of those expertise of technology and pharmaceuticals company and medtech companies, which give unique opportunities to share those expertise, to have a common view on and voice and on a policy. So our Health Tech Council worked on 2 papers. One paper is about how do we build, as private companies, trust for the use of data, and how do we innovate. I think we believe that there are 4 pillars that we have the duty to promote from our side. The one is demonstrating the benefit for society of what we do, of this innovation. The second is that we have to ensure a secure and interoperable infrastructure. The third one, that we have to leverage the success we are having on sharing data and make it more at scale. And last but not least, to rolling out patient-centered service for Europe. So I have the great honor to introduce Stella Kyriakides today, which is as Cecilia mentioned, the European Commissioner for Health and Food Safety, which will give a keynote intervention. Commissioner Kyriakides has led us through the pandemic, where digitization has played a very big role, not only in speeding up research and development, on tracking the disease with the certificates, which is used much beyond our borders, the European Union borders. And I think today I want to underline the fact that the European health data space is the first data space that is coming in the EU data strategy. And this is also another sign of the leadership of the Commissioner here. Let me say, in the discussion with the Council, we acknowledge and we are very happy of this first decisive step towards the use of data. And we are sure that we'll unlock the power of the data for people and improvement of healthcare. So there is very component in the paper. You start from patient centricity. We speak about cybersecurity. You speak about boosting research, artificial intelligence, and innovation. And always never to forget how to protect the privacy right of the citizens. So without further ado, join me in welcoming Commissioner Kyriakides to the Summer Summit. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure to be able to join you today. As has been said by the others, by my predecessors, digital technologies are becoming the backbone of more equal and more resilient societies, and of course of stronger economies. So I really am very pleased to be able to join you today and see how we can together work to maximize this immense potential. As has been mentioned, the pandemic has really shown us, despite the many challenges and many difficulties, has really shown us in a way a blueprint, I would say, for action. And it showed us the importance of health, data and digitalization. and how we can really use this, and how we can use this potential for the benefit of citizens. Challenges, of course, still persist in health data and making access equal for everyone, and we need to resolve them. Today, people find it difficult to access their health data, especially when moving from one member state to the other. And this can negatively, of course, affect their health and well-being. It leads to a repetition of often of tests. It leads to barriers in healthcare, and it leads to disruption of the continuity of care. Fragmentation across health systems also may, of course, result in a lack of interoperability, and it makes it more difficult for innovators such as yourselves to access high quality data sets which are necessary for products and applications and services that benefit the patient. And this is why early in May, I presented our proposal for a European health data space. A European health data space that will aims to be the answer to all these questions, to really mark the beginning of a new era where the individual is empowered and can access and have control over their own data. It will unleash the digital, the data economy by fostering almost a new single market for digital health services and products. And it will provide a framework to be able to reuse health data, but always, and this was a priority for myself and of course for my services from the beginning, that this needed to be done in a trusted, in a secure, and in a predictable way. We need the European health data space to make data work for people, to make data work for patients, to make data work for health professionals, and to make health data work for innovation. So I'm personally very proud that this is the first common EU data space to emerge from our Commission-wide data strategy, and it is a crucial part of Europe's digital transition, but also it is one of our central pillars to our new European Health Union. If I may be allowed to just briefly say that we have two aims here. The first is to enable the citizens to share their data, for example, their medical history, their test results, their prescriptions, with hospitals and medical professionals in and across the member states. This can only happen if we have a climate of trust, where we can be confident that our personal health data is handled with the greatest care and is underpinned by very strong data protection rules and data security. The second aspect is how we can use health data for innovation, for policy making, for research. And we will be creating a legal framework that will allow industry and researchers to combine and reuse health data, including data generated from the real world application of medicines and treatments. Now, setting the legal framework is one thing, but we must also tackle interoperability requirements, security, and other related aspects. And in turn, the greater availability of health data will give the boost for new innovative medicinal products and devices, and this will lead to a more personalized level of care. So these are two parts of the European health data space that will come together. But for us, and I will repeat it, it's that for this proposal to have to be successful, it is built on the trust of citizens. That is essential. So strong privacy and security protection is how we're going to be building this trust. Now, patients will be able to control and access their health care across borders and share their medical history with professionals across member states. And for those reusing data, they will require a permit that will be very clearly setting out what can be done with the data, and also that it will be impossible for them to re-identify the individual to which the data belongs. So there are two aspects to this. One is My Health at EU, which is how the citizens themselves own their data and how they can use them. And the other one is Health Data, which will not be we will not have the re-identification of the individuals to whom the data belongs. I'm delighted that the member states have already earmarked a total of 12 billion euro in the Recovery and Resilience Facility for investments in digital health and secondary use of health data. And from the Commission side, we will naturally make the necessary investments in order for the European health data space to realize its potential. And we have overmarked over 800 euro for this reason. So in ending, ladies and gentlemen, we sincerely believe and aim for the European health data space to be a game changer. It is true that our proposal is very ambitious, but we have seen over the last 2.5 years that we need to really push forward. We have seen how we can change the way we look at health using digitalization. If we look back now to the EU digital COVID certificate 1 year ago, and now it's opened up economies and societies in a safe way, and this was created in record time, and people now automatically use it, and it has made a real difference. So this is there is a great deal more that we can do with in the area of health with data, and I discussed the European health data space proposal with the ministers of health who met in Luxembourg last week, and I was very reassured that they share our level of ambition, because in order for us to achieve this, this needs to be a joint effort. So I welcome the creation of the Executive Council for Health and Digital Europe, and thank you for the opportunity to share some thoughts today, because I sincerely believe that this is all about collaboration and cooperation, and together we are able to build a digital future for health in Europe, which will have citizens at its very heart. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Kyriakides, for your leadership and for choosing Digital Europe as your first priority for speaking on the European health data space. Thank you, of course, to the Council for your leadership. I hope that we will have a great collaboration, and when we are here in 12 months, that we will be able to say to each other, see, we did it. Thank you so much for your leadership.
We will. Thank you so much. Thank you.